To some, she has wandered the earth realm for thousands of years, lurking under the cover of darkness and preying on infants for which to consume. To others, she is a temptress, a wicked femme fatale who seduces the unsuspecting man in the nocturnal hours. The Mesopotamians said that she was a winged creature, perhaps part bird and part woman, one who possessed a horrific speech and a pair of bloody talons to boot. As we saw in the last episode, Lilith, or Lulutu, was indeed a wicked spirit, an enemy of the gods, a fornicator of men, and a butcher of children. Various audiences have since described her as evil, innocent, immoral, brave, sickening, charming, villainous, heroic. Indeed, the character Lilith evokes many polarizing perspectives, and it would appear that throughout the generations of history, the meaning of Lilith has morphed to suit her ever-changing audiences. Going by the last episode, we now have a fair understanding of the Mesopotamian attitude towards Lilith, which is arguably the oldest attitude that one could possibly have. She was not seen favourably in any capacity, and most communities would sooner ward their houses against her with talismans and incantations than risk her looming in their doorway. To the Babylonians, Lilith had a pretty terrible rap sheet. She was a night spirit who preyed on the vulnerable, most notably pregnant women and children, and besides feasting on the flesh of babies and drinking their blood, she was also known to carry and spread disease. She seduced unsuspecting men in their beds, sometimes at the command of the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, and sometimes on her own accord. Some state that she took on the role of a succubus, emptying men of their seed to fertilize her own offspring. Others say she seduced men for sport and defiled them in the process. But what did the Bible have to say about this controversial figure? Well, as I'm sure you've guessed, the Bible doesn't speak too fondly of her either. While she only makes a single appearance in chapter 34 of the book of Isaiah, even this is enough to stir confusion and debate amongst readers. The first 39 chapters of Isaiah are essentially Hebraic prophecy, as detailed by Isaiah, where he encourages readers to not get too familiar with anyone outside of their own community, so as to avoid coming into contact with their gods. As you might imagine, Isaiah warns of his God's anger when it comes to the worshipping of other gods, and scrupulously dissuades anyone from doing so. In chapter 34, we see Isaiah's God seeking vengeance upon the people of Edom, who had taken up worship of multiple deities. Isaiah recounts to us that because of their polytheism, the region of Edom will become a barren desert land, a place where the soil is infertile and no man can live, for it would be patrolled by wild animals. We are told, wildcats shall meet hyenas, goat demons shall greet each other. There too the Lilith shall repose and find herself a resting place. Isaiah doesn't appear to describe Lilith beyond this, implying that it was possible that his audience were well aware of Lilith already. She did not require an introduction, nor an explanation in this passage, for her infamy preceded her. Isaiah notes that it is in this desolate place, amongst the remnants of Edom, that Lilith will find her resting place, suggesting that the demoness did saunter from place to place as she committed her evils, but would now focus it all upon the site of Edom. To some, this passage may also go hand in hand with the story of Inanna and the Halupu tree, for where Gilgamesh banishes Lulutu, or Lilith, to the desert is where she arrives here in the Bible. The desert in both cases may be symbolic for Lilith being sent to a place devoid of life, a bleak and forsaken place that was suitable for a being such as herself. Lilith flees there because she knows it is a place that Gilgamesh will not follow, a place no man would willingly tread, and a place where ironically she would feel safe. In Isaiah's account, God brings this terrible place upon Edom to punish them, and to serve as a reminder to every neighbouring part that this is what is to come to those who do not worship him. It's also interesting that in Isaiah's account, Lilith is surrounded once more by animals, just as we've seen in the Burney relief. These animals, of course, are much more violent: wildcats, hyenas, and goat demons, creatures that would no doubt prey on mankind given the chance, much as Lilith would. What's interesting about the biblical account is that in other translations, Lilith is completely omitted and replaced instead by a screeching owl. The King James translation, for example, tells us, "The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl shall also rest there, and find for herself a place to rest." It is unclear why various translations omit Lilith and instead choose to replace her as a screeching owl, but in any case, the choice to use an owl may be a deliberate nod to Lilith's Babylonian image, where she was believed to have been depicted with wings, talons, and various bird-like qualities. Furthermore, as a nocturnal bird that flies in darkness, the owl certainly shares Lilith's characteristics, a creature that hunts its prey under the cover of the night. In the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Bible, the reference to Lilith is swapped for the Greek beast known as the Onocentaur, a creature similar to a centaur, but is half human and half donkey. In this version, there is no Lilith, and the desolate land of Edom is instead inhabited by this bizarre hybrid creature, one that certainly seems less threatening. Additionally, the wild beasts that accompany Lilith are also replaced by the Greek daimonia, those believed to be demons or unclean spirits. By this, the Septuagint seeks to completely remove Lilith and all associations to her, and appear to favour an even more obscure beast in the form of the Onocentaur. There is no certain answer as to why this is, but one idea is that Lilith was too strikingly similar to another creature that lingered in the shadows of old Greek legend, a monster known as Lamia. Lamia, who much like Lilith was a hunter of children, would have been well known to the ancient Greeks. She was first and foremost known as the child killer, a fearsome creature that hunted children and devoured them until nothing of their physical form remained. What made Lamia so striking was perhaps the very visual descriptions of her, which may have helped keep her legend so prominent for so long. Lamia had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a serpent, though in some variations she was again much like Lilith, or her Babylonian equivalent in Lulutu, being adorned with wings and talons. It is believed that Lamia may have been a daughter of the goddess Hecate, but her more prominent role within Greek mythology comes from her romantic associations with Zeus. After Lamia had been caught in bed with Zeus, Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, sought revenge by killing all of Lamia's children. Unable to cope with the grief, Lamia metamorphosed into a monster and manifested her own anger of having lost her children by killing the children of others. In other accounts, Lamia was also a seducer of men, luring men into her clutches before embodying a more vampiric essence and sucking their blood. Where Lilith seduced men with the intention of stealing their semen and defiling them morally, it would appear that Lamia intended grievous physical harm and would even kill the men she entrapped. Where Lilith appeared to hunt pregnant women and children, Lamia appears to have gone a step further, perhaps an expression of her rage for what she had lost. Lamia would become a common folk story amongst the Greeks, a cautionary tale to men and women to keep their wits about them when it came to exploring the unknown, but its more common use was to scare children into listening to their parents and goad them into good behaviour, sort of like an archaic boogeyman of the ancient age. With this knowledge, it's possible that Lilith was rejected from the Septuagint because of her considerable semblance to Lamia, and was possibly an effort by the original translators to distance themselves from the strands of their earlier mythology, one that was not congruent with biblical sentiments. What's even more interesting is that the early 5th century Vulgate, a Latin translation of the Bible, outrightly referred to Lilith in Isaiah 34 as Lamia, saying, "And demons shall meet with monsters, and one hairy one shall cry out to another." There, the Lamia has lain down and found rest for herself. With this, it further adds to the speculation that Lilith and Lamia may have been conflated in some way, or at the very least, drew inspiration from the same place. We later see Lilith unearthed once more in the Dead Sea Scrolls, most notably in a fragmentary manuscript of a Jewish exorcism known as Songs of the Sage. The text, whilst incomplete, appears to offer some protection against various demons, as well as Lilith, who presumably conducts herself in the same fashion that's expected of her. The text suggests that the world is populated with evil angels that serve the demon Belial, and that in order to protect against such forces, the following words should be uttered: "And I, the instructor, proclaim his God's glorious splendour, so as to frighten and to terrify all the spirits of the destroying angels, spirits of the bastards, demons, Lilith, howlers, and desert dwellers, and those which fall upon men without warning, to lead them astray from a spirit of understanding." Mentions of Lilith do also appear in the Talmud, a Jewish compendium of discussions and tales by great rabbis, though these are few and far between. However, they do give us some insights as to how the ancient rabbis considered Lilith in the early years of the 4th century. Here in various chapters, she is described in a physical sense, and is attributed with having long hair and wings. Along with this, she's also noted as having sex with men whilst they sleep, in an effort to steal their semen. This then reinforces the idea, as well as building on the demon's sexual nature, that Lilith was indeed something of a succubus, or perhaps the first succubus. One Talmudic entry actually specifies that people ought not to sleep alone at night, for to do so would allow oneself to become vulnerable to Lilith. Lilith's presence in the Bible is admittedly almost inconsequential, but that has not stopped many scholars, theorists, and even fans of Lilith from picking apart Isaiah's words in chapter 34. Whilst believers may not wish to lose sight of the message behind Isaiah's dire warning for the people of Edom, the intrigue behind Lilith finding this obliterated land as her final resting place is quite hard for some to ignore. With Edom being so totally bombarded with God's vengeance, as told to us by Isaiah, where its sands will be drenched in blood, its streams turned to darkness, and its land set on fire, the inclusion of Lilith seated amongst this madness makes for both an epic and horrifying spectacle. As always guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit the bell icon and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss an upload. Until next time.